all this.
Yeah.
Thank
Great.
you.
Yeah, it really is.
Hey, everybody, we are back with Midwest Chicana Chingona Podcast, and I am so excited for today's, airing. We have the amazing co-hosts with us, Lori Peters and Chato Villalobos. So welcome back, guys.
Hey.
I'm sure.
How y'all doing?
I'm sure our viewers are very excited to have you both back on, man. We had some good conversations with Uziel and a couple weeks back. So I'm so glad to have you and honored to have you as a co-host here because we have David Lona with us. David, how are you?
Good.
We are here to talk about your mom. Well, we love to talk about you as well.
No. She's more important, way more important than I am.
Because just to kind of get into it, your mom is such a name in Kansas City, a legacy in Kansas City, and growing up, not in the Westside area, but around the Westside area, I knew about Mary, and being friends with Chato and Lori, it was a name that came up very often, and just the amount of work and community work that she did was just phenomenal. And I want Kansas City to really know who she is, and even beyond Kansas City, because I think that, sometimes the stories don't always get out, and we need to start sharing them a lot more. So I'm just honored to have you here, David. Thank you.
Right. And you don't really realize it when you're that young. I was 14 when she passed away, and you don't really realize what the magnitude of what she really did until you get older and you reflect on those things of when you really start to see the way the world works, and you realize, man, this little lady did all of this, and you're just like, you don't really realize, until you're older. And a lot of the posts that I've written, they're from that perspective of realizing what you went through what you witnessed when you were younger. You're just like, and you're just sitting there, and you, because I was always by her side. I was pretty fortunate to absorb all of those stuff that she was involved in, because I was just happened to be there. And that when it was just, and then when you realize it when you're older, like, man, it's just like, that's pretty amazing when you think about the limited resources that we had. We didn't have the internet. We did, but it wasn't as much of a staple as it is now. A lot of the stuff was fax machine, stuff like that. It was just really, when in hindsight, you're just in awe, because the innovation that she would have. It was a lot of the stuff was before her time. It's really cool to think about it like that.
And David,
go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, to even kind of bring the story to life a little bit here, let's talk about like you and like where your family's from, and because you're from Kansas City, living in San Diego now.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a journey into itself. I graduated from Alta Vista, and as soon as I graduated, I went straight into working. And what I enjoyed at the time, it's kind of, at the time I really enjoyed retail. So I went to go work for different places. My goal was to work for all the places that I thought was cool. So my first job was actually a busboy at La Fonda, like, getting paid cash. Did that, and then after graduation, I went to go work for Best Buy, because I thought that was the coolest place to work. Put in a few years, then I started getting into apparel, and I was like, what's the coolest place to work, in Kansas City for apparel? And at the time, I thought the coolest clothes were at Boulevard Blues up Crown Center. It's like, that's the coolest place to get clothes. I want to go work there. I ended up talking to Calvin at Halls, and I got hired at Halls. And I worked my way around there for a lot of years. And then when they ended up closing down, and I ended up, working with until they closed. The Plaza location and the Crown Center location for renovation. Or at the time, they didn't really know what they were going to go. So I ended up, me and my brothers at the time, we opened up our own clothing store for a while. And this was before Instagram, and we just had Facebook, really. And we had that open for a few years in Kansas City. We had our location out in Overland Park for a while. And
okay,
then,
so you have to tell us a little bit more about this. So you guys opened up a clothing store. I had no idea, David.
Yeah,
I remember Boulevard Blues because I work at Hallmark, and so that's where I know David is
so
from over there.
I got the kind of like the apparel, the fashion bug, or whatever you want to call it, from there. And I convinced my brothers, and that we all did it together, and we kind of had a really dope clothing store for a while, for a couple of years in Kansas City. And after that, they lasted for a few years. We closed that down, and I ended up working as a general manager at the KU shop at the Oak Park Mall. H&M ended up buying that piece of real estate, that mall real estate out. And after that, I was just like, I'm just kind of bored with Kansas City, if you will. And I was just like, at the time, I kind of wanted to, in 2004, when I graduated, I kind of wanted to join the service. And, my dad wasn't having any part of that because the war was pretty in high gear, and he didn't want it. And so I had to, pass on that at the time. And then after I ended up closing that store down, and I was just like, what? I would really like to see what else is out there. And I've always wanted to join the service. So I ended up joining the Navy at 27, and I did 4 years in the Navy for a while, and I was a cook while I was in there. And it just ended up bringing me out to California. And then when I got out, I just decided to stay. And right now I'm pursuing a pilot's career right now out here. So San Diego's the perfect place to do it. They got tons of flight schools and things like that. So I've been out here. I've been fortunate enough to, make my own way out here. I got out of the Navy with, some pretty good benefits and things like that. So I'm able to, have everything that I dreamed of, and I'm pretty fortunate right now. So it's been great. So just keep on pursuing other things. I've been fortunate enough to pursue everything that I wanted to in life, and I'm very fortunate for that. I'm very, very fortunate. So that's where I'm at.
San Diego's like Kansas City West, ain't it?
It is. It is.
Who's out there with you, man?
Melgoza's out here with me. Danny Melgoza's out here with me. A few Kansas City natives are out here doing some really good things out here. My friend Hudson Harris, both of them, Hudson and Danny, they work a lot with the county out here. They do local politics and things out here. Patrick Pierce has a public relations agency out here. He does a lot of things like that. It's just a really cool vibe out here. It's very laid back. It's kind of like a giant Brookside, like, if you will. It's like a Brookside on the West Coast, if you will, like a big giant Brookside on the West Coast.
Yeah.
And
David, I've known you since you was a kid. You were like maybe 12 years old. You come around with your mom and dad, and they were always hustling for the community, man. And I just imagine what it'd be like to grow up in that household, because, your mom was down. I mean, she participated in so many things. One thing that stands out of my head was when I was doing case management for young kids, 14-year-olds, boys in particular. Your mom was huge with like the promotoras, and then she'd do stuff with parents as teachers was one of the ones that I remember her doing. And that's a program now. When I became a parent just 12 years ago, that's a thing that like our people in our community didn't know about. Like, she would go to people's houses that were like new parents and teach them all these things about literacy. I mean, from the age of infancy, the early years, like how you can give your kid a head start. And we had And at that time, we had an issue with teen pregnancy, and she was always in the mix, doing her stuff, directing clinics, and then the La Lista Latina. She always had time for young women in our communities, all communities, by the way.
Yeah.
So I see your ambition.
It didn't matter. It didn't matter.
No.
When you say all communities, it really didn't matter. It wasn't really the focus was on the Latino community, but it just wasn't about Latinos with her. It's just with whoever needed the help, got the help. Whoever needed the resources got the resources. It didn't matter.
No.
And that's what I was sharing when we were at Alta Vista, and your mom would come during health class. And I can recall being in the basement, and we were all in a circle. And your mom, she we're short people, but she was short. But she when she spoke, she was mighty, and she unwrapped this condom and was passing it around to all of us teenagers, and we're like, we ain't touching that, but she was telling us, the facts on AIDS and teenage pregnancy. Mm-hmm. And, once again, Lord Peters didn't listen, because here comes the baby. But anyway, she was a voice for those who would listen and who wouldn't listen. But when her I don't want to say it was a burden, but her calling, she did it, and she did it with passion. And when as I got older and reflect on those pillars in the community, you're like, oh, I need to make sure when I do my calling, I'm doing it with as much love and passion as those who affected me, even when I was younger. And that's your mom.
Right. And it's that brings me to the other thing, like you said, what affects you when you're younger. And that what my parents instilled in me when I was younger has a lot to do with why I'm in San Diego. It was always community driven for them. And the way San Diego fits into that, my dad would always tell me about Chicano Park. We didn't even live in San Diego.
Yeah.
He would always tell me about Chicano Park, about the Chicano movement. He would put on chunkies under the bridge. I mean, this was like, I want to say 3 to 4 times a week. This was going on in the house when we were growing up. Yeah. And it's just so weird. Like, I think, you get like, how do they, like, you get trained, like underlying training for what's going to go on in your life. And, fast forward 20 years later, I live in Chicano Park. I know all about it. I knew all about it before I got here. It seemed like I knew how to navigate it, like, as soon as I got here. And then I ended up getting, an apartment, and I'll be getting a house out here pretty soon, with everything. So it's just really dope, the way, the people that have come into your life have that effect on you, especially at a young age. She still remembers that from Alta Vista, the basement of Alta Vista. I still remember the basement of Alta Vista. You remember those things. You remember all those little things. And that's what I try to do, especially as a young adult. I always try to, especially with the youth and everything, if I come into contact with a young person, a child, I always want them to have the best reflection of an adult. I don't want them to be like, man, I can't go to an adult. They'll yell at me, or, they'll scold me, or they'll think I'm stupid, or whatever. You should always be that open book, to a young person, because you never know how it's going to affect them. You could have an impression on the rest of their life. No matter what kind of interaction it is, it should be, with an adult, it should always be a good, positive interaction. I got something out of it. I learned something, So it's just really cool to hear that, 20, 30 years later, I still remember that, kind of thing.
Yeah. I'll never forget that era of just people, your mom, the Mary Lona Jaramillos, the Reyes family. I remember the Reyes family and Joe RC, along with your folks. Back then, you're right. We didn't have Facebook. We didn't have a lot of those things where we're able to alert everybody what's going on. Your mom was a part of a movement where they would mobilize when there's anything affecting our communities, or just if there's any kind of inequalities going on in healthcare, period. You said all people. I remember when I think it was the like the Black Chamber of Commerce of Kansas City honored your mom, and that says a lot. And how you and your brothers lived your life as a tribute, David. I mean, you guys are ambitious. You go get it. If it's not there for you, you work. You guys were some of the hardest working in each in your old individual passion. You guys work your butts off. I love like Gabe, the kind of father he is. I mean, it's just amazing to see you guys, you know, living your mom's tribute, bro. I'll never forget just all those things about Mary, man. And like I'm 6'1", man, and I know I'm 6'1", and like Lori said, your mom was not tall in stature, man, but you respected that woman.
Right.
When it was time to mobilize, she let you know. She let you know, man.
You know, she just that, you know, like I was saying, like the things that you realize, and the short amount of time that she did it, you know, I remember just in the 90s alone, you know, working for Cabot, doing that, you know, starting La Lista, and then in between that, she was doing stuff with, you know, the AIDS Coalition. You know, she's one of the, you know, front runners for the gay community, and when nobody else wanted to be a champion for them. You know, you think about the kind of bravery that takes. She's like, she like, it was just like, you know, she would tell me, she's like, I don't have time for this bullshit, dude. We're either gonna do it or not. You know?
Yeah. It was around.
You know, it was one of those things. It was either 1,000. She would only get into it if she could be 100% into it. You know, if she wasn't 100%, probably wasn't gonna happen. You know, if it wasn't a good idea, it probably wasn't gonna happen. You know, she would have to, you know, roll up her sleeves and get all the way into it, or not at all. And you would see that, you know, with the product that she would put out. It wasn't a halfway mediocre project. You could tell that anything that she would do, it was real, always passion driven, and you would see that in the little details of the stuff that she would do. And
I can say there was no half-stepping, because she'd ask, well, what is so funny about this? If we would giggle, she's like, because some of you guys are doing it, and if you can do it, there's no reason to laugh about it. And I was just like, oh man, she's not playing around with us.
No. She was the biggest point I loved is she's like, hey, if you think the man's gonna show up and be responsible, you know, he's only out for one thing. She kept it real, especially with like young people. She was like, it's your responsibility. And she would even let the guys have it too, man. She's like, hey, you need to listen up too. This is all her job. I mean, you talk about some real talk that was so powerful at that time. You know, David, going back to talking about La Lista, to organize a resource that had Latino businesses, Latino government, social services, so that we can all have access to something that did not exist for our people. And we had an evolving history here as a people in this city. But what your mom and her brother Joe did, and your dad with that Lista Latina, it was you couldn't find that kind of resource anywhere. And can you imagine just I mean, the beautiful artwork she put in there? I hope Deanna comes back, because I would love for you to talk about like her movement to bring, all her efforts was to bring the Lowrider shows and culture to Kansas City. A lot of us were fans of it.
That was short of amazing, man. You know, a lot of the, like, I think back at it a lot of the time, like, she would just see something and say, I want it. I want that car here. Like literally see the Selena car in the Lowrider Magazine. Said, that's the one. Call that dude up. See what we got to do to get this dude. This is before Google. This is before whatever. Like,
oh, you mean that was when we would just pick up the phone and call, and we'd have that access?
Yeah, you gotta find out. You know, call somebody that knows somebody that might know somebody that, you know, before you know it, you know. And just that car alone, I remember that car. That car was a spectacle to set up and to break down. It took hours for all that stuff to happen. What I saw from La Lista, starting from ground one, was she literally had a notebook and she just started calling people. And then before you knew it, like, the cool thing about my mom during this whole business thing also is she always kept it innovative also, technology-wise. Technology-wise, she was always thinking, okay, how is this done? Figure out how it's done and then bring it in-house, So she would, the graphic design was a big thing. So she would hire her own graphic designers, get her own equipment, because she didn't want to wait. She didn't want to wait. Like, she didn't want to wait on other people. She didn't want to wait on excuses. She wanted to be able to be like, this is done. And then with the innovation thing, sometimes it would cost more money to get a certain piece of equipment, or like, for example, like saving data was a big thing back then. And it's almost a joke. Like 250 gigabytes was a big thing. Megabytes, 250 megabytes. To save 250 megabytes in one space was a big thing. And we had these things called zip files, zip drives, and those were the big thing. And then we had them. And we would get the newest version. It seemed like we were almost there, like getting the newest version every year, or we would be getting the newest Apple computers for the graphic design. And you can't. At the time, I didn't understand why, but at the time, now it's just like she wanted the best equipment so she could put out the best product. She was always thinking, it wasn't about we had the best stuff. She wanted the best stuff so we could give the community the best product. And I see that a lot now, is the evolution kind of the mom and pop business. Like, you would see the mom and pop business with, maybe poster board signs or whatever. Now it's not like that. Now the mom and pop stores are just as good or on the professional grade of any other store now. And that's through people like my mom, like setting the bar high. Like, we're going to go into business, but we're going to go into business the right way. We're going to always have that, innovation. We're always, we're going to have that clean look. And the people that don't do that, they normally don't last. The people that don't keep up with the times, like just right now, Deanna, like with what you're doing is amazing. You're keeping up with the digital times, you're keeping up with the digital era, and you're also getting out the word of our culture. And that's amazing. That's so important. It is, because that's the way, like it or not, that's the way we're heading. And if you're gonna ignore it, you can't ignore it anymore.
Yeah.
If you're gonna ignore it, you're gonna be lost. Our culture can live digitally, and or however, and it needs to be. It needs to keep up with the times. I think if Lista was still around, it would probably be like the Latino Google, maybe something like that. Because there would have been an app. I know that there would have been an app. There would have been a lot of things. Within that 20 years, 99 was the last year. I could just think of all the technological growth we've had in 20 years. We would have been on top of it. She would have been on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
That thing, when they brought that Lista Latina out, that was just on the verge of like what NAFTA did to the Mexican government. We hadn't had, like, all the Latinos that are here before that era came like 1900s, and it's all of our grandmas and grandpas. But that era of NAFTA, when that messed up the Mexican economy, we had just seen a big boom back down in Argentina, Armadillo, Northeast. That was the first influx of immigrants, and they came and they were business minded. There were people here that were coming here for a better life. They were ready to participate as a citizen here. And what Lista Latina did, she was such a visionary, because there was no internet. It wasn't like you could just jump up on the internet and you can have all the services that Latinos needed. She's the one that helped, like Guadalupe Center, Mattie Rose, and all those places, keep their services out of the West Side and grow it. And in the Centros, I love that she didn't have any borders. She would work in Kansas, Missouri, black, yellow, white, brown communities. It was just ahead of its time. And like, I know I'm an old man on this page, and I'm years old, but when you talk about your mom and her innovation, when you say like that Lista Latina, like what it was done with a lot of heart and good product, and the shows that she put with the Lowrider shows, we didn't have that before down here. we were all just reading out of the Lowrider Magazine. She brought Lowrider Magazine to Kansas City,
Yeah.
and I just
And it's crazy the way it happened. To be honest, like now that Deanna's back, I'll start from the beginning. Like it.
I know. I'm sorry about that. I don't know what's going on.
It's all good. In this crazy time, everything was expected. But she literally took it from. She was notorious for having these tall legal yellow pads and a pen and just a phone line, and she would start calling people. Okay, now I got the advertisers. She would pitch it, and then like the first printing job, the first magazine was thin. The sheets were thin.
Mm-hmm.
I think we spent most of the budget on the cover, so it would at least have a nice cover. But the pages were thin, but they were protected. So, and then what she had to do was she didn't have any place to store it. Like she couldn't store it at the house because we had literally pallets of this. So we stored it over at the Christian Center right there by right in back of the Quick Trip on the Boulevard. Do you know what I'm talking about? Stored it there. She worked out a deal with somebody there to store it in there.
Was it Unbound?
And, what was that?
That building where Unbound is at? Yeah.
Yeah. And then so, she worked out a side deal. Everything works on a side deal and a handshake. She worked out with somebody there in the building that she could have access to it. And so after it was printed, we stored it there. And then us as a family, my three brothers, her, would go to that place, bundle like 20 of them up together, like newspaper, like bundle them up in either plastic or twine, and then go start delivering them everywhere throughout the city. We had to do that we had 4 issues. So I think on the last one, we finally got like a distributor or something where we didn't have to do it. But all of that stuff was done by hand, by word of mouth. All of that stuff was really a labor of love, really. Because if you were to explain to somebody what you have to do that, they'd be like, you're crazy. Couldn't pay me enough. But she did a lot of this stuff just cause for the community. There was a lot of this stuff of at the time, she wanted to keep the show as accessible as possible, which meant she wanted to keep it free. Everything she wanted to keep it free until she couldn't anymore. She was always like, are you sure? Can we get by? Yeah, she would make it the way so the community came first, man. And I'm starting to learn, maybe I learned late in life, or you can call it whatever, but I'm just now in my mid-30s now, starting to see how really important that is and what a special person that takes, it just kind of like brings you back a little bit. And, she built that, just literally all of that stuff just on a little pad, like she would just, all right, we'll just do it. It's just every day, check, write something down, check it off, write something down, check it off, write something down, check it off, and then she built all that in a little house, on a little notepad, a little phone. It's great when you think about it.
And David, I just have to say, because you're right, it does take a special person to do that. Because when you think about all the work she did, by herself, by hand, asking people to help. Yeah, and the risk, absolutely. And then definitely
the financial risk,
because she had a family. She had a family. Yeah. She could take care of them, but she also knew that in order to take care of her kids, I'm sure she thought, I have to take care of my community, because you are a part of that community. And if you don't take care of your community, who's going to be there for your kids, right?
Yeah, I mean, she found a way to take care of it all. Like, I still don't understand how she had time for us. I don't. I can barely take care of myself.
She was a mother.
Yes.
I don't understand, like, all the hours in the day.
Uh-oh.
no, now it's happening to him.
Right.
Oh no. Okay, hopefully it'll come back in a minute.
I got to say, the way that went down, growing up, watching them grow up and how Mary Lona raised her boys, that era of Latinos and those parents, like they drug us to the center with them, and you were raised by a whole community because there wasn't no time. Everybody was working for not-for-profits. You couldn't afford a babysitter. I remember, like Gilbert Guerrero's kids, Alejandro and Ale, like being there helping set up for the fiesta, or the Lonas brought their kids with them everywhere. I remember him as a little tiny kid, little 12-year-old David, and he talks about it, but that's when David says, I don't know how they had time. I'm like, what's up, Dave? I'm just marking your parents out on their style of raising you guys. What was common in that era was we had to mobilize. The parents had to mobilize. They were the ones helping the community, reaching back for people, pushing people forward. And you were raised by the whole community. Like everybody, like when David said, yeah, Chato knew me when I was little. That's because, the frontliners, man, we brought our kids with us. They're there, like David,
I remember
times for fundraisers, you had to fold up tables, clean off things, help out,
Yeah, you just get taken along for the ride, and then not only you get taken along for the ride, you're expected to help.
Right.
That's what a lot of people. That's what like you don't see a lot of that with today's youth. They're just not. They're absent to a lot of the things that go on, and it's you might not think it's important to have your kid engage in a conversation that you're having with an adult, but that is so important because I learned how to talk to people through my mom. I learned how to talk to them the right way and how to get your point across, have them getting excited about your cause or your business or whatever, so they're on board with you and they want to help you, and it's not like in a weird phony way. It's in like a legitimate, this is the way you get things done, is just being a good person, not being a good person because you need something. It's like doing it all the time. And usually when you got a cause and you operate that way, the stuff starts falling into place. Like you might, your friend might know a printer. That printer will give you a discount. That printer will know somebody else to help you out with something else. And it just goes on and on and on. And that's the way she developed a lot of the businesses. A lot of it, it wasn't really about the money. It was more like, hey, I dig your cause. I want to help you. I want to give you, we're all going to get paid, but it's, instead of doing it for 10,000, I'm going to do it for 8,000 because I just dig what you're doing. I dig this cause. I want to help you. And the stuff would just fall into place like that. It was a risk, but she took it. And when you operate like that, it's going to work out. It's going to work out. That's why, like good people, they're really not afraid of anything. They're really not afraid to take the risk because they know it's going to work out.
No, Deanna, I mentioned when you hollered at me about that you were gonna have David on the show, and I told you, oh my gosh, she mentored me. One of the things I remember specifically is I had just got back from the Army. I think I was like 21 years old. This is like early 90s, mid 90s maybe. And I had this program. We lost the funding on it, but I was like, I'm going to keep it going. I can volunteer my time until we figure this thing out. But it was a summer enrichment program where we're teaching the kids literacy, and we're going to have these big mural projects. And part of the day was supposed to be having fun. The other part was like reinforcing literacy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, well, what do you need? I was like, well, we just, here's what we paid for, whether it's field trips, buses, She was like, well, mijo, all you got to do is ask people. People, if you know how to put it down on paper, write about it. She said, write a poem about what you do with the kids. Now, I swear to God, she said, write it like you're writing a poem about how you feel about those kids. Hold on. And so I wrote it out. And she was a masterful wordsmith for like grant writing, because she would hustle for, it wasn't even her program.
Yeah.
She would hustle for education programs, mentoring programs, health programs, and just be like, hey, here, I got you. Just what is your main objective? She would ask all these questions. I'm 21 years old. I just came back from Army. All I knew is that I love the kids and I needed to, be present. And she was like, all right, write this poem about why you think this is important. I was like, all right. I'm not gonna lie, I thought it was dope as fuck. I was like, that's dope. So I wrote it out. She was like, all you're missing out is how much you need. I was like, I don't know. I hate asking for money. She was like, you're not asking for money. You're asking for help for your kids. It ain't for you. I was like, all right, bet. I put her down and she like coached me. And she took time on the phone. She was a phone warrior, man.
Yeah.
She would call some people and then she wouldn't let me just, like, she would have set expectations right here, way up here. She would never feel sorry for anybody. But she was like, look, this is where you got to go with this program. Now, I'm going to point you in the right direction and give you some resources, but this is my expectation, mijo. You can't half-ass this. It's like, you can't half-ass this. This has got to be important. You can grow the program if you're successful. Take pictures, right? I mean, she coached me, and Memo did too, and I'll never forget how much she would just like, she would see something out of the corner of her eye, be like, what are you doing? All right, well, check this out. You ever thought about doing this? And that program blew up. I left it. We went and did other things, and it just we mentored other people to take over the program. And I mean, I think there's still it's the basis of where the Calcuma program is now. I mean, now they have all these funders are like, hey, you doing this again this year? So the people who are running that program don't even have to go ask. The people are calling them, and that's Mary. That was Mary Lona, man. She was just so dope that way.
It's stuff like that I still hear about. I'll go back home and I'll run into somebody like Chato and I'll hear a story just like that. And I can't even put into words how proud I am, because I know how much it's lifelong. It's a lifelong gift. It's everlasting, She gone and it's still working, But the thing that I remember about a thing that she would do, and this is kind of like training without knowing, she kind of set me up at a creative writing thing with you, Chato at Alta Vista. And she said, oh, we're going to go somewhere Saturday morning. And, you tell a kid, hey, we're going to go do some writing on Saturday morning. You're like, man, you're not doing that. And so she said something to like, we're going to go do something. We're going to go eat, something to get me along. And it's like, before you know it, man, we're in a classroom and it's like, wow, Saturday for real? You're like, you're going to sit there and you're going to listen and you're going to write. And man, like, that is like the best thing now that I do is write. I got that gift, from her to not like, I thought I wasn't going to like it. I ended up liking it, ended up liking it and applying it. It's little stuff like that. Little stuff, thinking outside of the box was no isn't really, or not getting what you're going after isn't an option. It's always, you're going to find a way to do it. Just like Chato said, you got to, you might have thought, write a poem about it. Like, I need a check. Poem's like, it's gonna get you a check.
Yeah.
It's gonna get you a check. You're not gonna see it. You might not see the play at first, but it's there. And she would bring that out of you. And it's very rare when somebody can bring that out of you. So, and it's just, I guess I'm waking up to really seeing, what a, special person that she really was. You kind of dull or numb to it, just, because your own emotional feelings. But then, as the grieving process goes on, and it's taken a long time for me. It's almost been 20 years, but as the grieving process kind of like evolves into something else, you see, man, like the magnitude of it, the magnitude of her presence, of what she did. And if you just talk about, one little sector of her life, just Lista, just that alone is enough for one person in their lifetime. They're like, I would never do that shit. I could never do that. Just the, I don't know a person that would put on a bigger Lowrider show than Lowrider Magazine. She did it. You know, she put on a Lowrider show for the whole Midwest, not just Kansas City and Missouri, but people from Iowa would come in, Illinois.
I'm gonna check.
Oklahoma,
I think I have that
Texas.
magazine still.
You know, all of that. And
The one that featured Kansas City, Lori?
Yeah, I think Aaron has it. I think Aaron has that one. Uh-huh.
But your mom planted a lot of seeds, and
yeah, the magnitude, yeah, planted a ton of seeds. Yeah, and you don't realize it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you really don't realize it till
cultivated in.
Well, and what I love, David, and why I'm glad that we're talking is because as time goes by, people either forget or they don't know, and just the fact that the amazing work that she's done is so important to kind of bring back to life, so people know like where this path has it's been paved already for the people to be doing this, and they don't even realize that the person who paved it and all that they had to go through in order to do it. Just the fact of having a lowrider show at American Royal, I mean, that is beyond what anyone was thinking at that point back then. When you go, you're just like, we're here, this is awesome. Don't even think about all the hard work that's went into that. So that's why I'm so glad that you're here talking about. For
in all honesty, like it was almost like it was scary. She would have doubts herself. Like, you think we could fill this up? And so I think one year we rented half of it, and she was like, I don't know if we're gonna fill this up. And we needed more space the next year, so she got the other half. And then the next year she got the other half, and then the upstairs. So it just, it's just all about, you got to find a way. It's not really taking no for an answer, because you're going to find a no. You're going to get the door slammed in your face. It's not taking no for an answer. It's finding a way around what you got to do. And a lot of people, they'll find a way, and, they'll take the wrong way, They'll be like, man, I can't do it anymore. I'll take the wrong way. Or they'll color outside the lines, and it doesn't work out for them at the end, but if you just keep on right, and if you keep on doing it, and you're doing it with good intentions, I've seen it materialize with her, and I've seen it materialize with me. And there's really no secret other than just to being a good person, just to keep going forward. No matter what, there's no secret. There's no how-to book on that. That's literally all you have to do, and it's worked out incredible for me.
I can't tell you how much I appreciate you, brother, man, taking time to be here. Deanna, what you're doing, you and Lori, man, keep going. These stories are so important for these. We got some young, energetic people that are taking the baton and moving forward with progress, and speaking up for our people, informing our people of things going on, good and bad, whatever. But knowing about the Mary Lonas and those people who have laid down the foundation, those are the shoulders that we're standing on. And so I really appreciate you making this happen, and David, you taking the time, we can reflect and honor your mom this way, and talk about her legacy. But like, I just,
it's great.
I
honestly wish she was around for what's going on right now. I think she would, be a very frontliner, of all the issues that are coming up right now. Just so much, so many things going on in 2020, and it would be amazing to have. But we also have a lot of amazing voices still, still around right now that we could. If we work together, we can solve a lot of this stuff that may seem complex, but it just takes good community.
Well, like Lori and Deanna are saying, man, she definitely was part of planning that foundation that we stand on, brother.
Yeah, and I'm so grateful and so honored to even just to have been around that all my life, and it's been such a tremendous blessing for me. I think, I think we all have a responsibility, for the next generation to have it a little bit better than when we had it. And, I think my parents had, set us all up to have it a little bit better than what they had and what they had to go through. So, I think it's just great, and it's set up, now, I live out here in San Diego, and the next generation will have it, a little bit better, than I had it. So it's going to be great. It's a great future ahead.
David, is there anything you want to share with the viewers who may or may not know your mom? Anything that sticks out in your memories about some, even funny, just something that you're like, wow, I need to share this about my mom.
Oh man, there's so many funny things. I think she would like to, I knew her, as a young man. So I think the number one thing that I got out of her was you gotta just to be selfless all the time, you don't really do things for yourself. Like, she would do things like for your reaction. She would come up and surprise you for you. And you don't see a lot of people do that. So I just try to keep that going forward to just, and it would be anything, just to make you feel special, and I think if everybody did that a little bit every day, just go out of your way to, buy the next dude, buy whoever's behind you a cup of coffee, do something like that. Just, she would do that kind of thing, and she didn't want anything in return. She just wanted you to have a good day. And I think if everybody did that a little bit every day, it would be a better place, it really would. So
not knowing your mom personally, David, but knowing you a little bit, you've always been very kind, always said hello, always like, hey, like just like you've known everybody for forever. And
yeah.
Even in your posts that you do, they're always positive. And I just loved, the reason I wanted you on is because I loved the sharing that you do. You don't do it you don't know a lot, but when you do it, it's so special. And I just want to know more. And I feel like I want to know her, and I think the way you share her memory, we're getting a little piece of Mary Lona every time.
I think the number one thing that she would want everybody to know, because she grew up, in poverty, and anybody else that, that would go through that type of thing, poverty, and everything that goes along with that, they would have every right to be, a rotten person, or, to carry that, forward. But she would, she would always, it was almost like she was like an alchemist. She would spin everything into gold. And the way you do that is, like, you just gotta, the way you do that is just remaining positive, and you always gotta find that little nugget of positivity in the worst, in some of the worst situations. You'll be able to find it, and when you find it, then you got to start working on it, and then you got to figure it out from there. And then usually that little thing will turn into something big. And she was the master of finding that and working it, and then turning it into something valuable. And it takes a strong person. It takes somebody that's willing to put in the work. But if you're willing to do that, you could come from any kind of background, any kind of situation and make life that you want, you know? And that's the number one thing that she would want everybody to know. It doesn't matter. You know, you just got to keep on pushing and keep on helping along the way, and it'll fall into place. You know, you got to work hard at everything. Everything takes hard work. You know, good relationships with people take hard work. You know, developing, you know, your dreams takes hard work. And when you do that, when you're that kind of person that puts in the hard work but also puts out the positivity, great things happen. Things happen.
And David, it looks like you have Miguel Morales wrote a really nice piece. He said, "I knew Mary from her work with the Hispanic AIDS Coalition. She fought for us to have space, funding, and she embraced art and science to spread the message of prevention to save lives."
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's
tremendous. I remember being at a lot of the early AIDS stuff in Kansas City, the early AIDS coalition things. There with her, and you know, like I said, I was pretty much a fly on the wall. You know, I was just seeing how things were going, and you know, you would see, you know, members from the gay community come up to her, and you know, I would see, you know, her talking to them, and they were always, you know, they're like, nobody is helping us except you, and they were so thankful for that. And I just never understood why, you know, because she would just say, you know, Mijo, everybody needs help. It doesn't matter what you are. It doesn't matter. So what? And she would just like literally say that, like in the car, and just like, so what? You know, literally just go on about your day. We're on to the next. Go do something else now. Like everybody needs help. Doesn't even matter. It wasn't even a question. It honestly wasn't a question of who you were, what you look like, your sexual orientation, you know, your religion, whatever. Hey, do you need help? Because if you do, I can help you. What's up? Real quick. Let me take 5 minutes out of my day. Let me take 15. Let me take an hour. Let me do that. Whatever it takes to help you get to the next level, I'm going to do it. Because why not? You know? She would see the bigger picture of community. She would see the bigger picture of community, and a lot of people don't. You know, a lot of people will walk past you, will walk over you. You know, instead of taking 5 minutes. What if 5 minutes? That's all that person needs to get to the next level. If it takes an hour to get this person straightened out, take that hour. What's it gonna cost you? She would literally tell me stuff like that, and not in a coded way, not in a, oh, you'll figure it out when you're older. She'd be like, man, what's it gonna cost you right now?
Right.
When we had to go, like do stuff like go deliver those magazines, I'd be like, Mom, my hands are gonna get all dirty and stuff. My clothes are gonna get all dirty. She would go, that's what soap and water's for. Boom, we're working.
No excuses with her, dude.
Any excuse.
She had
you know, there's no excuses until you could gripe about it after we're done, after the goal's done, after we're done achieving what we set out to do. You can go ahead and gripe after that, but when it's time to do something, it's time to do it.
Yeah, her dicho was
it's
even if you have nothing, you could still give everything. And I was like, oh, like no excuses. She was no excuses, mijo. Like if you got an excuse not to do it, then we can find an excuse for you to do it. And I was like, after that, man, I followed her anywhere, man. Even if you have nothing, you can still give everything. And that's, you know, hey Delia, hey Miguel, I love you guys.
It would always work out. It would always work out. Always work out. You know, you think you're gonna give, you know, the last dollar in your pocket, and then something works out, and now you're whole again. It was always that kind of a thing. And like I said, she had a lot of faith in what she was doing, and you know, not only faith, you know, faith is only take you so far. It's the rest of the work and the risk that you're willing to do will take you across the finish line. You know, you know, from nothing. She was like she was a little girl that came over from Mexico and did the most in her short little 45 years, you know. She did the most, you know, and she did it with putting herself last a lot of the times. It was herself that was, you know, she would be in the kitchen eating by herself. She would be, you know, a lot of the times, you know, handling business. Everybody's having a good time. Everybody's being taken care of. You know, there's you ever wonder who's behind the curtains taking care of her? Everybody is having a good time. Everybody's, you know, enjoying the fruits. She's the one that worked all that. So it's crazy. It's crazy when you think about it. It's crazy to think how far we've come in a little short amount of time, and it's all because of hard work through her. It really is. You know?
Well, we appreciate you so much, David. I hope we can do this again and even learn more what Mary does has done and still to this day is impacting all of us so much. Also, I didn't even realize you did creative writing for the community. I feel like my story just flowed through you and David and Mary. I'm like, what is happening right now? Like it's amazing to see like the legacy that she started. And I am humbled by the fact that I can do what I'm doing today because of people like Mary who took that risk before anyone else to open that door to where people will be like, okay, let's do it.
Yeah, but it also takes, you know, you're one of those people that's not just, you know, to kick down the door. A lot of the times the door is closed, you know, to our culture. You know, people, you know, either they don't want to hear about it or they feel that they've heard about it, you know, before, but you're bringing a new perspective on it. You know, you're bringing a modern perspective to it, you know, because, you know, we're not the same people we were 20 years ago. We're not the same people that we were 10 years ago. You know, we're, you know, if you think about the Latino people, we keep up with innovation. You know, we're up on social media. We're up doing these things. You know, we want to get, you know, our point across because, you know, a lot of the times, you know, we're still not taking, you know, seriously yet as a society, and it's going to take more people like yourself that are innovators to, you know, keep on, you know, bringing us to the forefront on that. You know, it'll take a team effort, you know, with yourself, with all the like-minded thinkers to, you know, keep on reminding people how, you know, important our culture is in American society. You know, it's very important, you know, economically, culturally. You know, there's just so many strings that Latino string brings to the American fabric. You know, it's very strong. You know, and people need to realize that. You know.
Well, and I think people need to realize too, the people on this panel, I mean, look at us. We went to the schools like Alta Vista. I went to Harlan.
Yeah.
I really made it through a little bit of college.
You know.
I mean, it just shows what your community can do for you, you know. And,
it just shows what you know, people that have, you know, the real drive to do. They do amazing things, you know. Going to Alta Vista, you know, when I went and in the 90s, it was kind of like, oh, you're going to Alta Vista? Like, good luck, you know, good luck with your life. You know, you get made fun of by your cousins, you know. I'm just keeping it real, you know, my cousin going to Alta Vista. You know, you get all the weird looks, you know, like, you know, good luck with life, you know, you pretty much, you know, you get marked as a failure. And 99% of those people that told me that, they ain't out here in San Diego. you know, it's up to you. You know, it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where you're coming from. It doesn't matter what you have. It does, we've all come out of our situation. It really matters what type of person you are. Are you willing to work for your dreams as hard or as harder than anybody else? And you proved that you could. I mean, you've done this stuff with on Netflix. You're on Netflix, dude. Like, I'm not on Netflix.
I'm always like, okay, yes, I know.
That's amazing. When you think about it, that's who else in Kansas City that's not a major star is on Netflix.
But she totally
forever.
pulled a Mary Lona on us too, though, Deanna. You didn't just go Netflix. You took us with you, and then you brought it back to the community. That's a Mary Lona spirit right there, girl.
That's a Mary thing.
Yeah, and that's why when Chato was like telling me a little bit about it, and I've heard about her, like even Nikki Lamone was telling me, it was like, oh my gosh, like this is so amazing. Because the only reason me and Aaron decided to do Netflix was because of the fact that it was going to bring light to the lowrider community, to the Latino community. Because otherwise, we would have said hell no. Because my husband, first of all, does not want to be on camera, nor does he want any of our business out there. So this was not something that was very lightly taken, but it was the importance of how do we bring this to where people are going to see Kansas City differently, and that the fact that we've been here for a very, very long time. And the thing that I've been doing since then has just been saying, this is not mine, this is ours. And it was a gift. And so the only thing you do with gifts is you just keep giving them back. And this podcast alone, that's why I'm just so thankful people say yes. Because when I first started, I was like, man, I don't think anybody's ever want to talk to me, about anything. It just started slowly, but it's important because you start to learn about the people like Mary and even you, Chato and Lori. Like people ask me about you guys now, like, wow, what do they do? Who are they? They're so great. Like Lucero, who was on the last podcast, they're like, wow, like didn't even know anything about her. Like, what is she doing? It's like, it's just, we should know about the people in our community and all the amazing things they're doing. And there shouldn't be a chance just when they get an award or something, like, oh, now we can uplift them. We should be uplifting them every day.
Yeah. And the thing that I really like about what you've done, you haven't changed anything about who you are. You've always stayed true to yourself. It's not, on any kind of fake level, or I'm not, trying to be this or that. Right. This is what I am. This is what the community's like. This is what the community needs. And people are loving it. So it's
my kids and my family and everybody. I mean, seriously, they don't give a crap about who I am. They're like, just be my mom. Like, I want you to, they won't even do TikToks with me.
Believe me, you don't see it now, like how important the work is, and it's through no fault of your own. Like I was a kid, I didn't realize it until now. You don't realize what it really is till you realize how the world really works.
Yep.
And how difficult it really is to navigate, and that's just on how to live a normal life, be quote unquote normal. It's not doing all of these special projects, and not only, are you doing these special projects, to make a living, but you're also doing it, for the community, and it's just, man, it's special. So what you're doing is great, and I'm loving that you're able to do that. With the community as a forefront. Well,
it wouldn't be here without the community. So that's all I say all the time. If it wasn't for the community, it wouldn't be here. So they're the ones.
And it shows. It shows. And I really do think like. I can speak for myself. I don't know if I could, speak for, my brothers and the rest of the family. It's just, honestly, is just too sad to keep on doing that kind of work, and it honestly is. So if there's a person like you who wants to do it, who sees, the future and is keeping up with it and and you see the same passion and drive for the community like she did, I say go ahead and do it, because it'll evolve into, you know, what she worked for, you know, and I think, you know, a person like yourself needs to, you know, get that baton passed to them so that they can do it all the way, because, you know, it's just like I said, I can't do it. It's just too sad for me, you know. It really is. I try to be, you know, a little bit of a you know, be in the community here in San Diego, but being like my mom was, I don't know, maybe it'll evolve into that. Maybe it will. I'm cool with, you know, playing my part that I can play right now, but I think you know, it's a very special person to be able to do that on that magnitude, you know.
Well, it sounds like Mary was beyond like her time for sure, and just giving everyone else this path to go down. And we just appreciate you, David, so much. I went over your guys' time. Chato and Lori, do you have any last words for David, Mary, and the legacy that she leaves us?
No, I just thank you. It's an honor here to be sharing our memories about your mom. The baton isn't an easy one to carry. It's not for everyone to carry. The burden and the baton, it can be heavy, but once again, it's not for everyone. But for those who do carry it, we just got to make sure that we are doing it for the generations who did it before us, and the ones who are definitely behind us, that are watching us. So it was a true honor to know your mom, and to reflect back on just what a woman she was for the community, and all of us in that basement at Alta Vista on many occasions. So yeah,
the basement was interesting.
Yeah. And Chaco always had to go upstairs.
That's where my office was. They put me where I wouldn't get into any trouble by myself up there in that closet. Yeah, I just gotta say, you know, it was an honor to reflect on the life and the legacy of your mom and David, and you and your brothers. The way you live your life with the love you guys carry in your heart, you could tell her seeds weren't just in the community. I mean, and like Lori said, it's a heavy baton. But to anybody out there listening to these podcasts, if you feel like it's your time, you have a talent or skill set, you think you get to this community, I hope that you take away from this, no matter how big the task, you'll never have to do this by yourself. Reach out. Your community's here for you. When Diana first had her ideas about the Lowrider and the Chicano festival, my heart melted. I was like, anything, you let me know. We'll, you know, and I know she reached out to several people, and you know, it was her. We followed her lead, but I love that people were like Diana and your mom, you know, and the people that came before us. They instilled in me like, whatever anybody wants to step up and do, we got your back. None of this you have to do by yourself. And so I just want to say thank you again, and Lori and Diana, what you guys are doing. My daughter gets to catch when she comes over. I get to go to you guys' pages, and we get to listen to it later on. So I know, like, you may not have that many people watching now, but people do go back and watch that. You've had some amazing people on here. Keep doing what you're doing, Diana and Lori. You guys are awesome team. David, so good to see you, man.
Yeah, it is so good to see you guys. And yes, it'll be on Instagram and YouTube Live. I've been kind of backed up on my podcast, but they will be out there, I promise. And then it's on Spotify. So it'll be on Spotify and all the streaming. So I get a lot more on the Instagram. Facebook, I don't know. People just don't want
in demand.
It's a true honor to tell you also about all your strides, Deanna. You've been making some incredible things, and you know, I was in the Navy for a lot of the stuff that you were doing, and when I got out, especially these past couple of years, and I've, you know, been able to see how far you've really taken things. It's been amazing. It's like, man, is she really doing it over there?
Well, that's a true. That's. I can't even imagine what your mom had to go through, because just the journey alone is such a lonely journey. I mean, you have so many people around you, but it's a very lonely journey. And it takes
Yeah,
those
like,
people around you like yourself and the community that is really behind you to keep you going every day, because
yeah, you should. I mean, and don't stop. Like, don't think that, these roadblocks are going to stop you, because they won't. Like I said, you'll just navigate around them, and
yeah, we find a
and
way.
you're doing things with good intention, and I think that has a lot to do with it too. I think intention has a lot to do with success. If your intentions are good, and they really are pure, and especially for the community, it'll fall into place.
Well,
It always does.
one thing, and I'll just leave this here, is the reason that keeps me going for real is if I wasn't doing it, I would hope someone would be there for my own kids doing what I offered the community, whether that be the free art programming, the safe space for LGBTQ, just the mentorship, that's out there with the amazing artists that give their time away to, not away, but to the kids that need it. Just like you, Chato and Lori, educating and, being there for our communities. I just am so grateful that here in Kansas City, we have such an amazing Latino community. And look, you're stretched out all the way to San Diego, David, bringing all that over there as well. So it's national.
The San Diego community. I think it would be perfect for you almost to come out here too and see a lot of what's going on. Just I live about 3 blocks away from Logan Avenue, and Logan Avenue, there's always something going on. Not so much now with the COVID stuff, but the years before, there's always something going on, and it seems like everything that's innovating in our community is coming out of San Diego first, especially with the Chicano movement, the Lowrider movement. A lot of those apparel, fashion comes out of here, and it'd be great, to come down and see a lot of this firsthand. So it's a lot of great culture, and a lot of it, has even been more active, within the past couple months, with the stuff that's been going on. You see a lot of Black and Brown unity going on right now in our neighborhood, which is extremely important. There's not a lot of division in our neighborhood. Our neighborhood is very inclusive to everybody. That's why I really dig living here. Also, in Logan. It's a very community driven. We're always trying to find innovative business ways to do things here. We're trying to find innovative stuff for the community. It's just a very cool thing, man. And I'm lucky to be a part of it. I'm lucky to live it every day. It's very, very fortunate to be able to live that.
Chicano Park is on our list after COVID's done. That's the next spot for sure. My husband has never been to California. It's so odd to me. I'm like, what? So we usually his park is in Vegas. So we're hoping that when COVID's over, we'll go to Vegas and hit California right after that.
Yeah. We're it's 6 hours away from Vegas, so maybe you can
it'll be easy. Just
talk them into the drive.
Absolutely.
But it is a really San Diego does have that real cool Midwest Kansas City vibe to it, and it's just a real cool place to be. And I'm really fortunate to be able to pull it off the way I do.
Yeah.
So.
Well, thank you again, David. Thank you again for honoring.
Thank you. It's been an honor.
It's probably the last time we talk about you and your family and all the amazingness that has happened and still happening now to this day. So we just appreciate you so much for coming on here and being open to talking about her and her amazing work.
Yeah. Well, thank you for the opportunity. Thanks for letting me talk and everything. And Chato, it's good seeing you. And Lori, it's great meeting you.
Nice meeting you.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Chato and Lori. We will be back again, I'm sure. Bye.
All right.
Everyone, good night.